A sense of crisis seems to be gripping the White House after James Comey's firing. There are all these calls for an independent investigation now because the idea of public trust in the FBI's Russia investigation seems to be compromised. Let's discuss with General Michael Hayden, a CNN national security analyst and the former director of the CIA and NSA. He wrote about the firing in an op-ed for The Hill. What is your take, General?
Well, what I said in the op-ed, Chris, was it looks like a lot like Nicaragua here in the United States, with the multiple firings and the difficulty of getting an accurate and consistent story out from the White House. And so I do think there's some fundamental threatening of the processes on which we've relied for 2.5 centuries to keep ourselves a free and a safe people.
All right, let's talk about this. I want to get your take on Rod Rosenstein and what happened. The White House says that the deputy AG went to the White House for a visit with Jeff Sessions, by the way, the Attorney General, and shared their opinion about Director Comey. And they felt that he had sort of lost his ability to, I guess, be independent or to lead the FBI. And President Trump said, can you put all of that, your opinion and thoughts on paper? And that became the predicate for firing him. What do you think of that narrative? And if Rod Rosenstein was somehow duped?
Well, looking at the reporting that's now available, it looks as if the original White House narrative that this was spontaneous combustion over in the Department of Justice, that the new deputy AG was so surprised and upset by what he found that he crafted the memo and brought it to the White House, and that was the cause for the presidential action. Current reporting suggests that that's just not what happened, that the decision had already been made to get rid of Director Comey, and the White House was looking for some documentation on which to publicly base the a priori decision. And I think the Deputy Attorney General now is, based on reporting, feeling a bit used in that he is being suggested as the predicate for the firing rather than creating a document that somewhat justified it.
General, you know Comey, you know protocol. What are the chances that that second paragraph in the president's letter will check out? That on 3 separate occasions, Comey communicated that the president was not a part of the investigation.
Well, first of all, Chris, as you said earlier this morning, it's just weird that that shows up inside of this document. And then beyond that, it's something that I don't think any prosecutor, any director of the FBI would say to a chief executive. I just don't think they would have a conversation even in that depth about an ongoing investigation with the President of the United States.
I mean, I just feel like that can't get enough attention. Not only is it clear indication of what the motivation here was, right? Because he could have said something in there about what he did during Hillary Clinton, and I can't let it go, and, you know, in light of this memo. But he didn't. He talked about the Russia investigation. And then this fact, if everybody who knows Comey and everybody who knows protocol says this is not something you should say, and this is not something he would say, then where does that leave us in terms of whether or not you believe the President of the United States about something of such fundamental importance?
Chris, you bring up something I think is really fundamental. And coming from someone like me and the institutions I used to be a part of, the intelligence community, it appears right now that the Oval Office is not a welcoming space for the truth. One of the sins that Jim Comey is alleged to have committed is that he did not go along with the president's story about wiretapping Trump Tower in New York. Our job in the intelligence community is to present the truth, and we get challenged from time to time when we have to go in there and present the unpleasant truth, the unwelcome truth. But that's our job, and the president needs that. I fear he is now creating an atmosphere in which we would have to have unusual bureaucratic courage for folks to go in there, institutions to go in there, and tell the president things he just doesn't want to hear.
So, General, where does that leave the investigation into Trump's team's ties to Russia?
Well, look, I'm instinctively opposed to special prosecutors and special processes when we face these kinds of problems. These things always seem to go longer, deeper, and broader than you originally intended. But I must admit, the events of the last 48 hours, I now have a far more open mind about an extraordinary structure so that we can create something that we all can have confidence in when a final conclusion has been made.
Last 48 hours. How about what happened with Devin Nunes? Him just showing up on the White House grounds and supposedly having a source and throwing a press conference, not telling his own commission. There's clear partisan bickering about everything. There's silence from Ryan and relatively McConnell after something like this. You know, where is the confidence that Congress can oversee this? Where is the confidence that the FBI will be unfettered in reaching a conclusion?
Chris, you know, when you look at that and some of the other events, you could create the hypothesis that the thread linking all of these is an attempt not to argue the facts on the part of the White House, but an attempt to destroy those other governmental structures that are discovering facts that the White House simply isn't comfortable with.
I mean, look, we know for a fact now that the president on at least 3 occasions, either himself or had one of his agents, go to the head of the FBI and find out what was going on with him vis-a-vis the investigation. I mean, that alone screams out that you need some kind of independence.
And so, General, tell us, I mean, what exactly, spell it out for us. What exactly are you calling for? What would that independent body look like?
Well, look, there's a legal thicket that you have to hack your way through because the statutes that used to enable these kinds of things have expired. But I do think look, my own personal view is I'm uncomfortable, as I said, with these kind of extraordinary structures. But we've reached a point where I think we do need something that all of the American people can have confidence in. And so I'll let legislators, maybe people in the Department of Justice, people in the FBI, suggest what kind of structure we need to have. But right now, I've got doubts that we'll have confidence in what we finally arrive at under our current circumstances.
General, always great to get your insights into this. Thanks so much for being here.
And the heavy words coming from General Michael Hayden.
Absolutely. So James Comey's firing is said to be causing strife at the FBI, you think? Coming up,